In terms of actually just the stages of development, and I guess that the question was like the difficulty. Does it pose any like restrictions? Would you say where, I guess in another world, a textile manufacturer or a clothing producer would basically have the option, unlimited option, if they just cared about profit, to find all the whole supply chain is open for them to find exactly what they want. But do you ever feel restricted in having to work in such a small ecosystem?
I mean, I think that there is definitely the availability of fast fashion fabrics at the moment, and in a much greater volume that I could ever imagine in sustainable fabric inputs, materials. However, I do feel that it's something that's shifting, and we haven't reached that tipping point just yet where there's the insistence or demand on a very real level for only sustainable fashion products, but it has begun. And I also feel that, talking in the grand scheme of things, the way that we're producing or companies produce fast fashion, or the way that companies are producing fashion generally now, that's not going to be an option in a couple of decades' time. So the capacity at which we're creating fashion at the moment, I think is archaic, or going to be outdated very, very soon. And that's just looking at the facts in terms of natural resources. So as much as we might feel a bit more restricted in that sustainable space, this is what inspired me to create my own fabric, and continue to add to that portfolio. I'm developing new textiles all the time from waste, from plants that are beneficial to the environment, that are carbon positive in a way, or negative, rather carbon negative, but they're actually positive for the environment from a carbon standpoint. There's a lot of development in this area. We've seen things like pineapple leather and stinging nettle fabric and banana wool and all of these crazy things that I think that the natural market adjustment will be to expand on sustainable fibers and inputs, simply because we can't make it any other way in a few years' time.
And that's obviously because of like resource scarcity. But I just want to pick up on two things actually you mentioned at the start. I love when you said you design clothes that appreciate in value over time, but also the kind of consequence of that longer term view of a pair of an item of clothing is that there's also less like landfill and stuff like that, right? Is that a key part of your message as well?
I mean, I think, and this is very much a conversation about the circular economy and our perspective around it. We can look at something from a linear perspective, and that we've done that for a long time, since, the Second World War, mass-produced fashion became popularized. And if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that's not actually a long time in relation to humanity's existence. However, we've worn clothes, pretty much since the birth of humanity. So I think the question becomes, how do you shift that perspective? And creating something that increases in value over time is also something that, should you need to dispose of it, or it comes to its natural end life, which at the end of the day, a tangible good or product will, my perspective is that it should benefit the earth when it goes back into the earth. So that's the way I'm thinking about it, regardless of where it is at its stage, and is a product's journey or its lifespan. It should always be positively impacting its environment.